We have covered governance area. We have covered ethics area. We are almost near to complete risk area. Probably next class, we will complete risk area. Not only risk area, we will complete half of the syllabus. We look at the questions that we have already covered in this paper. How many questions we have covered? Let's see. SP. Let me check how many questions we have covered so far. This Bobo question we have covered? No, Bobo we have covered in ethics. This H and Z question we have covered in previous class relating to risk. Yes. Pulp we have covered relating to internal control, internal audit. Yeah, we have covered. Yeah. Please count that. How many we have covered? 1, 2, 3, 4. David Hunter we have covered. AAA model and Tucker model. 5. SA 6. West versus Leroy 7. RDC 8. Hodge product 9. Policy speech 10. Lum 11. Plantax 12. Rosian 13. Seashell 14. Bank 15. ZPT 16. So 16 questions we have covered so far for this paper. Now you need to see how many questions you have attempted out of these 16. Because in every class, now onward we'll be covering 2, 3 questions. If you're having a previous work pile up, it will be very difficult to handle that paper. We are near to complete half of the syllabus. 16 questions we have covered so far. 2 more questions we will cover today. Before moving to next class, you will be having 18 questions. I don't know how you will cover these questions, but you have. Otherwise, simply leave the paper, leave the study, enjoy life. It's very simple. The last 4 papers of ACCA are not piece of cake that you can eat easily. Especially if you haven't studied the basic level paper of ACCA. If you are coming through exemption scheme, these papers are not that much easy. You have to revise, you have to cover everything at home again after attending the class. It's not just like attending classes and then we'll move towards exam center and we will pass easily. No, some of you have tried already. Please be serious now. Don't waste your time as well as money. Might be you are having enough money, but don't waste time. Life is too short. Be focused. Be serious. Try to convince yourself we are not here to waste time and money. This is not enjoyment. So in December, you are going for attempting this paper. Please try to cover the previous topics, previous questions. So let's move. We were covering risk area. In risk, we have covered about chapter 11 about internal control system, components of internal control system, objectives, advantages of internal control system, types of information system, qualities of good information. And in chapter 12, we have covered about internal auditor. What are the activities, role of internal auditor? We have covered audit committee, the role of audit committee in general, the role of audit committee in relation to internal control, the role of audit committee in relation to internal audit, and the role of audit committee in relation to external audit. And we have practiced two good questions, Bluff and yeah. We started risk area in previous class. Risk management strategy, risk management process we covered in previous class. What is risk management strategy or risk management process? 6 points. First, to define risk appetite of the company. How much risk a company can afford. Then to identify business risk on proactive basis that business can face in future. Then prioritize the risk according to your risk capacity. Then control risk, and to control risk, you have to check their probability and impact. Using TARA framework, we can control the risk. I mean, which risk we should accept, which risk we should transfer, which risk we should reduce, and which risk we should avoid. If the probability of occurrence of risk is high and impact of the risk is also high, we will move towards avoid strategy. We will not perform those activities where probability of occurring the risk is high and the impact of risk is also high. If probability of risk occurrence is low, and if risk occur, its impact is also low, we should accept this risk because business is a name of risk taking. So we need to accept some risk. But those where probability of risk occurrence is low as well as impact will also be low. I mean, it will not be having a big impact on the organization. And if probability of risk occurrence is low, but if risk occur, its impact will be bigger. It can destroy the whole business. What we need to do, we need to transfer the risk. Transfer the risk means we should take insurance. Because the impact will be transferred to whom? Insurance company. We will not be losing anything. Might be we will lose, but not the money. Money we can take insurance. The probability of occurrence of risk is high. I mean, risk occur again and again. There are more chances risk will occur. But impact is low. So we need to reduce. Reduce means we need to adopt control policies, procedures, so that if we are working according to policy, procedures, controls, we can reduce the chance of occurrence of risk. So TARA, transfer, accept, reduce, and avoid. This avoidance is not a good option because if we are avoiding to perform activities, ultimately will not be able to achieve competitive advantage, will not be able to achieve business objective because business is a name of risk taking. And if due to risk, you are avoiding activities, you are avoiding certain investment, ultimately you will not be growing your business. So always prefer if risk can be transferred, go for that, or adopt some policy, follow some rules, define some controls so that you can reduce risk as much as you can. Not fully, but as much as you can try for that. Even acceptance is not a good option. Though we are assessing the probability is low, impact is low, but it could be when risk will arise, the impact will be bigger. Always adopt some policies. don't perform any activities without having control policies. So what is risk management strategy or risk management process? To define risk appetite of the business? Risk appetite means how much risk a business can afford. And risk appetite depends upon two factors: risk attitude and risk capacity. Risk attitude means overall approach towards the risk. The approach of the business towards the risk, whether business is a risk seeker or risk averse. Mean business want to try something new. They want to take risk because business is a name of risk taking, and higher the risk, higher the return. Our business is risk averse. Mean business is fearful of risk. They don't want to take risk. They don't want things going wrong. A new business who have just established in the industry, they are always risk seeker. But an established business who's having good repute, they are risk averse. They don't want to affect their repute in the industry. So new business is risk seeker, old business is risk averse. So risk appetite, how much risk a business can afford depends upon risk attitude, whether business is risk seeker, more affordability, risk averse, less affordability. How much risk a business can afford also depend upon risk capacity. Risk capacity means how much risk a business can bear in money terms. And this depends upon how much cash reserve you are having. If you are having $10 million in cash reserve, this means your risk capacity is what? 10 million. How much risk you can afford? 10. If you are going to start a project where 12 million investment is required, this is going out of business risk appetite. Its priority is high. So we should avoid this. But if business is going to start any of the project where investment required is less than 10 million, this means this project is coming under business risk capacity. So its priority, its impact on business will be low, so we can accept this. If business is having 10 million reserve, but they have already started two project of 3 million each. This means now business risk capacity is what? 4 million, not. Now those new project, where investment is up to 4 million, they are coming under your risk capacity, under your affordability, their impact, their priority will be low. But if you are going to start a project where 5 million investment is required, how much remaining risk capacity you are having? 4 million. This means its priority will be high, its impact will be high. So business need to define risk appetite, overall approach, as well as according to capacity. And then you need to identify business risk on proactive basis. Business risk could be of three types: financial, relating to finance issue, relating to money issue, relating to ratios, operational issues in the operation, and relating to non-compliance with law regulation. Not only we should identify, we should prioritize the risk according to the capacity. And then we should define control measures, how we can manage risk. Control means manage risk using TARA framework. Which risk we should avoid, which risk we should transfer, which risk we should reduce, which risk we should accept. And then we need to monitor the risk, whether the policies to control risk are working properly or not. Who will monitor? Risk manager. Who will deal with the insurance company to transfer the risk? Risk manager. Who will see whether control policies to reduce the risk are working properly or not? Risk manager. And then we need to report risk. Report risk means we need to prepare a statement, prepare a report that we will publish in our annual reports. And this report on risk is mandatory if you are operating in USA, because as per USA Stock Exchange, according to Sarbanes-Oxley Act, report on internal control is mandatory disclosure. And risk system is also a part of internal control system as per OSO. In other part of the world, other than USA, this report is voluntary to provide detailed information to the stakeholder for their better decision making. Our company providing this report on risk for to achieve transparency. We are open. We are disclosing even more information than required by the corporate governance codes. So this we have covered. We have covered who is a risk manager in previous lecture. Even we have covered one question, H and C. Is that H and C we have covered. So let's move toward one more topic and then we'll discuss a question. Correlation of risk. Correlation of risk mean risk relatedness. Yeah. There's only one chapter on risk, that is 13. It's not a small, bigger chapter. Correlation of risk, also called risk relatedness, and correlation of risk is of two types: positive correlation and negative correlation. What is meant by correlation of risk? Sometimes two risks relate with each other. They are linked with each other. One risk also affecting other type of risk. This is called correlation or relatedness of risk. Correlation mean relatedness of risk could be positive, could be negative. Positive mean both risk will move in the same direction. Either both will increase or both will decrease. If one risk increasing, other will also increase. If one risk decreasing, other will also decrease. And the best example of positive correlation is environmental risk and reputational risk. If business environmental risk is increasing, mean business is polluting the environment. There could be chances of fines, penalties. Business reputation risk will also increase. The business repute in the industry will also be affected too, in front of general public, in front of stakeholders. If business want to reduce environmental risk, how? By implementing more advanced technology to control the pollution. They are taking some steps. They are complying with the EMAS ISO 14000 so that we can perform environmental to reduce environmental risk. Ultimately, their reputation will also improve, mean reputational risk will also reduce. So there is a positive correlation, mean both will move in the same direction. What is negative correlation? Two risks are related with each other, but they are having a negative correlation, mean one increase, other will decrease. If one decrease, other will increase. And there is a negative correlation between environmental risk and financial risk. Environmental risk means business is polluting the environment. They are badly affecting the environment. Financial risk means business expenses are more, business profitability going to be down. If environmental risk increasing, this means business not investing money to improve environment. Why? To save some expenses, to save some costs so that business can generate more profit. This means financial risk, mean risk relating to finance, relating to profitability will be low. But if business want to reduce environmental risk, how? By installing a new assets, by installing a new machinery. Ultimately, business is putting money there, mean business expenditure are increasing, and this will reduce your profit. Mean environmental risk business want to reduce by investing money, so their financial risk will increase, mean profitability will reduce automatically. So correlation of risk mean two risks could be related with each other. Mean relationship between two risks. If one occur, there will also occur. One risk affecting other type of risk as well. And correlation could be positive, mean both risk move in same direction, one increasing, other will also increase, environmental and reputational risk. Or negative correlation mean both risk move positive. If one increasing, other will decrease. If one decreasing, other will increase, like environmental risk and financial risk. If you are polluting more environment, mean environmental risk increasing. So ultimately you will be having bad repute in the industry. Reputation risk will also increase. If you try to save the environment, mean taking some steps towards environmental responsibilities, your reputation will improve, mean reputation risk will reduce automatically. But if you are trying to decrease environmental risk, investing some money, taking some steps to improve environment, ultimately your financial risk will increase. Let's move towards a question. That's it. That's it. Very short. Very short. Make it simple. Okay. So we are having a question YGT. YGT. There are three parts of the question. Part A for 8 marks, part B for 6 marks, and part C for 5 marks, altogether 19 marks. Requirement of the question, criticize Raj Duta's belief. Who is Raj Duta? We don't know. Criticize me. We need to provide argument against his belief. I mean, he is saying wrong. We need to prove he's wrong. So criticize Raj Dutta belief about the need for risk assessment. Explain why risks are dynamic. Dynamic means changing, and therefore need to be assessed regularly. And we need to assess, we need to manage risk on a regular basis. First, we need to criticize Raj Dutta belief. And then we need to explain why risks are dynamic. Why risks are dynamic? This we can even answer straightforward. Why risks are dynamic? Mean changing. If we discuss about business environment, business environment is a term that is associated with industry market in which we are operating our business. Business environment means industry market in which we are operating. Business environment are of two types. Stable, also called a static business environment, mean those industries where changes do not come regularly. Changes happen, but after 5 to 10 years, not on regular basis. And the best example of stable static business environment is auto industry, car manufacturing industry, where new technologies do not come on yearly basis. New technologies come after 5 to 10 years.
But now it's not 5 to 10 years, right?
Probably 10 years back or 20 years back, hybrid cars were introduced.
That's 10 years
And
back.
after a hybrid car, they introduced what? Electric car. After how many days? Probably after 10 years more.
When-
What was before hybrid car? Petrol car. Mean innovation do not come too quickly. The other type of business environment is called complex, changing, dynamic. Mean where innovation come on regular basis, mobile phone industry, IT industry. One day you have listened about one new technology, the next day there is more improvement.
Like
They have introduced something new.
each
Mean your product, your technology become obsolete too quickly. And if you are operating in stable static business environment, you can manage your business on long-term strategies. Whatever you have defined at start of the year, you can go with same plan, even not for this year, even for coming year as well. Because new changes, new innovation do not come quickly basis. But if you are operating in complex dynamic business environment, you cannot stay on one strategy. If you have decided a plan at start of the year, might be you need to change that plan after 1 week, after 2 weeks, after a month.
That's not
Because new changes coming too quickly, new innovations coming too quickly. And if you don't adopt those new innovation, you will be out of the industry within a second. Competitor will capture your market. And the best example is Nokia. Before 2010, this company were having about 90% market share in mobile industry. Everybody was using Nokia phone, Nokia phone, Nokia phone. And now this company finish from the world.
I even forgot about
Microsoft bought this company. It's sold to Microsoft. Why? They didn't accepted the new technology on time. They were going on their same plan. We are the market leader. We know what are mobiles. We are the leader. They didn't accepted the Android system. They were still producing a keypad mobile. But people were shifting towards touchscreen mobile. So they failed. Why? Because they didn't adopt the new technology on time. So they out of the market now. Because they were operating in complex, changing, dynamic environment. But they didn't behave on time or before their competitors. Their competitor introduced something new. They adopted the new technology before them, and they are still surviving. But this Nokia company is out of the market now. They were market leader about 10 to 15 years. Everybody was using Nokia phone, Nokia phone, Nokia. Even if you talk about your parents, they still prefer Nokia phone. Even some people still say Nokia is the most secure phone in the world.
yeah.
Because there is no, it's not smart, it's not connected to the internet, it's secure.
Nobody can have.
So business environment are of two types, stable, static, mean where New changes do not come on regular basis. But nowadays, every industry have become complex, changing and dynamic due to IT because IT is used in almost every industry now. So in the past, business environment were stable, static, but nowadays, all industries are becoming complex, dynamic, changing mean new things coming into every industry. And if new things are coming into every industry, mean technology changing, product nature changing, pricing changing. This means business environment have become dynamic. So everyday business need to face new type of risk. There is a risk. If you don't adopt new technology, there is a risk. Your business will fail. If you are going towards adopting new technology, ultimately you need to introduce that technology in your product, in your services. Mean you are going to launch something new in the market. And if you are going to launch something new in the market, there is a risk as well, whether it will be acceptable in the market or not. So as the environment keep changing, so business need to face new and new risk every day. So risk are dynamic. That's why business have to be involved themselves in assessing risk, in managing risk on regular basis. Because if they don't assess risk, assess mean identify and control risk, they will fail. So one point we can say about business environment. Mean why risk are dynamic? Due to dynamic environment, due to new innovations. And only those will survive in the industry who adopt innovation before their competitor. If you are adopting new innovation after your competitor, ultimately there is no place for you in the market because they have already attracted all the customers. Now you need to do something new, or you need to wait for new technology and then adopt before your competition.
Like me.
Exactly.
So that is the answer.
So why risk are dynamic? Risk are dynamic due to some external factors as well. There are some other external factors that affect the business. What are other external factors? External factors, political, economic, social, technological, ecological, legal, especially political, economic, and social. Political mean government policies keep changing. They don't stick on one policy. Economic conditions keep changing. Social factor mean society habit, preference, fashion, they also keep changing.
So what did you write? External factor?
Pestel, Pestel, Pestel. We will study this model in future, probably 3 weeks after.
Sure.
So as these pestle factor keep on changing on regular basis, so business need to face new risk on regular basis. So risk should be assessed on regular basis. Mean they are dynamic, not static. What else we can write? If business try to do something new, business is going to launch new products or services. So business is facing a new risk along with the new products and services. Whether those products or services will be acceptable in the market or not, whether we'll be able to generate required return on those products or not. So risk are dynamic and keep changing. One point we can write down like law and regulation. L&R stands for law and regulations keep on changing on regular basis. Every day government defining new laws, and those laws are having impact on the organization. If you don't adopt them, ultimately might be your business will be banned. So as new law regulations, we need to comply. Compliance risk is increasing. So risks are dynamic and business need to assess risk on regular basis. Mean we cannot avoid risk assessment. So requirement A of the question, criticize Raj Duta's belief about the need for risk assessment. What are his belief? Who is he? We need to read the scenario. and explain why risks are dynamic and therefore need to be assessed regularly. That we can explain straightforward. Let's read the scenario. Might be we can link some points. The board of YGT discussed its need for timely risk information. Business should receive risk information on timely basis so that they can manage on time. The consensus of the meeting was that risk consultant should be engaged. Risk consultant means risk manager should be engaged to review the risk facing the company. There should be separate person who is focusing on risk management. One director, Ras Dutta, said that she felt that this would be a waste of money as the company needed to concentrate its resources on improving organizational efficiency rather than gathering risk information. And we should focus on cost cutting so that we can increase profit. This is our main objective. Rather than we are appointing a person, paying him salary just for getting risk information. She said that many risks didn't change much and hardly ever materialized in occur, and so can mostly be ignored. Can you ignore the risk? No, they will destroy you. The rest of the board, however, believed that a number of risks had recently emerged, while other had become less important, and so the board wanted a current assessment as it believed previous assessment might now be outdated. Business is facing a new risk. So previously, we defined risk management strategy. We identified risk and defined control policies, but that is outdated now because now business is facing new risk. So against new risk, we need to define more policies. So we can criticize Ras Dutta's belief. He's having an old approach about a static environment in old days when there was no new innovation, there was no use of IT in the industry, no new innovation in technology field. But nowadays, business is operating in complex dynamic environment. Things keep on changing every day due to new innovation. And only those businesses are surviving who adopt new innovation before their competition. Otherwise, you will be losing customer, you will be losing revenue as well as profitability. So Ras Dutta's beliefs are not appropriate. His beliefs are based on ignorance. Explain why risks are dynamic and therefore need to be assessed regularly. We can explain by using business environment concept, by using external factor pastel, launching a new product, or changing your operation. You will be facing new risks. You need to assess them. And changes in law regulation also create new compliance risks. You need to incorporate more policies into your business to comply with law regulation, because if you don't comply, there will be fines, penalties, even business operation will be bad. You will not be able to perform business. What is part B? We don't know. We need to read the scenario. The team of risk consultant completed the risk audit. Risk audit means risk audit. They reviewed company risk management strategy, whether businesses have been identified properly or not, are their control management policies have been properly defined or not. They are performing risk assessment, identifying and monitoring. So the team of auditor risk consultant completed risk audit. They identified and assessed six potential risks: A, B, C, D, and E. And the following information was discussed when the findings were presented to the YGT board. Before moving to discuss further things, we should aware about TARA framework or probability impact risk.
So we are going to do Tara every day.
Yeah. Probability could be low, could be high. Impact could be low, could be high. If both probability impact are high, we should avoid those activities. If both probability impact are low, we should accept risk. If a high probability but low impact, we should reduce, mean adopting some control policies. If a high impact but low probability, we should transfer. Okay. So the team have identified 6 risks: A, B, C, D, E, and F. Risk A was assessed as unlikely, mean low probability, likelihood, as unlikely and low impact. This means risk A can be accepted because having low probability, low impact. While risk B was assessed as high likely to occur, mean high probability, and with a high impact. Avoidance, probability high, impact high. The activities giving rise to both A and B, however, are seen as marginal in that. While the activities do have a value and are capable of making good return, mean value, mean beneficial, and they are providing good return to the business, rather is strategically vital, but they are not a main business of the organization.
So in the exam, they ask us like this, we have to do that Tara.
You can draw this Tara in your working, or if it is in your mind, don't need to draw that. So both activities are not strategically important. So this means if a risk B activity is having a high impact, a high probability, business can stop performing this activity. But activity relating to risk A, business need to accept the risk and keep going on with that activity because it is providing high return. Risk C was assessed as low probability, but with high potential impact. So what we need to do, we need to transfer, and also arises from an activity that must not be discontinued. Obviously, this activity business cannot discontinue because this is important for the business. So we can take insurance, we can transfer the risk if impact is high. Although alternative arrangements for bearing the risk, mean acceptance, are possible, no, we should not accept this because impact is high, we need to transfer. The activity giving rise to risk C was recently introduced, means it's a new activity by YGT as a result of new product launch. So we can take some cover, we can take insurance so that by covering the risk, we can run this risk. So we are there. So risk A activity we should accept, risk B activity we should avoid, and risk C activity we can transfer. Risk D was assessed as a high likely, mean high probability, but with the low potential impact. So we should reduce. We should adopt some control measures, policies, and arose as a result of recent change in legislation. In law regulation have been changed. So what we need to do, we need to incorporate those law regulation into internal control system so that their compliance can be ensured. And through this, we can reduce the likelihood of risk occurrence. It cannot be insured. Obviously, we don't need to transfer because impact is low, probability is high. So we need to reduce. Nor can it be outsourced. I mean, we can transfer this through outsourcing as well. But we need to perform this activity by having some control measures. It is strategically important. Obviously, we don't need to stop this activity, though probability is high, but we don't need to stop because it is important for the business. That YGT continues to engage in the activity that give rise to risk D, although not necessarily at the same level as it currently the case. And we have covered requirement B automatically. Using the TARA framework, select and explain the appropriate strategy for managing each of risk A, B, C, and D. Justify your selection in each case. What we need to do with this risk A, B, C, D, we have discussed.
But we don't have to.
No, don't need to draw.
We just have to explain.
Exactly. Model, we don't need to explain. We need to apply knowledge of model. We need to answer scenario according to model knowledge. There is no straightforward explanation of any model or any topic in this paper. You need to apply the knowledge by linking with the scenario. Requirement C, but before moving to requirement C, there is a last paragraph. In addition, risk E and F were identified. Risk E was an environmental risk, and risk F was classed as a reputational risk. The risk consultant said that risk E and F could be related risk. Are they related?
Yes.
Yes. There is correlation, positive, negative, positive. In the formal feedback to the board of YGT, the consultant said that the company had to develop a culture of risk awareness. Meaning you should communicate your risk management to everybody in the organization so that everybody should support risk management. And that this could permit at all level of the company, not at top level. Risk management should be at every level. Because policies to control the risk, we need to follow at operational level. Requirement C of the question. See if you can answer. Explain what related risk. Related risk mean correlation of risk. Mean two risks relate with each other. If one occur, it also affect the other risk. Relatedness correlation could be of two types, positive and negative. Positive, both move in the same direction. Negative, both move in opposite direction. And describe how risk E and F might be positively correlated. Explain how environmental risk and reputation risk are positively correlated. If environmental risk increases, why business is not focusing on environmental responsibility, they are polluting the environment. Ultimately, it will affect the repute of business in the industry. And reputation risk will also increase. But if business try to save the environment by putting some investment or compliance through EMAS ISO 14000, their reputation will also improve. And reputation risk will decrease. Risk means problem. Reputation improve, mean reputation risk will degrees. We can explain for 5 minutes. Easy peasy. Okay. So let's move towards our chapter 13 we are. Risk and risk management process. What is risk management process? We have discussed 6 points: defining risk appetite, identifying business risk, prioritizing business risk, control risk, monitor risk to report risk. And this is the role and responsibility of risk committee as well. If examiner asks, what are the role or responsibility of risk committee? These are the 6 role and responsibility of risk committee.
What are the roles of
Risk committee need to define risk appetite of the company first. How much risk a business can afford? Risk committee need to identify business risk on proactive basis. They need to prioritize and control risk using risk assessment framework. Risk assessment framework means transfer, accept, reduce, avoid by considering probability and impact of risk. Risk committee role is to monitor the risk, whether the control policies are working effectively, and if business is facing a new risk, they need to identify. And role of risk committee is to prepare a report on their risk management process so that it should be published in annual reports. So this is risk management that we have discussed. And this is the role of risk committee. Let's discuss 2 types of risk. One is called strategic risk and other is called operational risk. There are 3 levels of management: strategic, tactical, and operational. You know, who are involved at strategic level? Top management directors. What do they do? They prepare long-term plans, strategies of the business. And while preparing long-term plans, strategies, they need to consider all the internal as well as external factors. Industry, market, external factors. If they are not considering all the factors while making strategies, while making decisions, they are not preparing proper strategies. There will be risk for the business because you haven't adopted appropriate strategy. If top management at strategic level haven't adopted appropriate strategy, meanwhile defining strategy, they haven't incorporated all the factors into account, this is called strategic risk. Whenever we are going to define any risk, we will start our phrase, a risk to the business. So what is strategic risk? A risk to the business due to poor strategy adopted at strategic level by top management, by not considering all the factors into account. This is called strategic risk. So what is strategic risk? These are risks associated with adopting particular strategy, mean they haven't adopted appropriate strategy. A company aiming to achieve growth by acquisition becoming more risky compared to a company growing through slow and gradual increase in sale. You can expand your business expansion, business growth. So business growth can be done through 2 strategy. One is called organic growth and other is called acquisition growth. So we can grow our business in 2 ways. One is organic growth, other is called acquisition growth. What is organic growth? Growing your business through self-constructed business unit. And if we want to grow our business, we want to open a new branch, what we will do? We will buy our land, we will install a building, we will install a system, we will appoint people, then we will open that branch. This is called self-generated business unit. where you are putting investment not once, step by step. First, you have bought the land, then you have built a building, then you implement the system, then you appointed the people, train them, and then you have started new branch.
That is
That is called organic growth. In growing your business through self-generated business unit. What is acquisition growth? You have acquired already established business in the industry, remove their board and put your board on that. Employee, system, building, everything was there, which is quick. Organic or acquisition? Acquisition. But it is quicker only as well as more risky. Because the business you are buying could be having some problems. Why is Honorary selling? Why? There could be some problem. And if those problems you will not be able to tackle after acquisition, this can destroy your life. Tensions. So that's why if you are going towards the growth of your business, always prefer organic growth because it is less risky rather than acquisition growth. Because it is more risky. You are not acquiring the business, you are acquiring their problems as well. If you will not be able to tackle those problems, this will disturb your business. This will affect your attention even on your existing business. You'll not be able to give more time to your existing business due to this problem that you have acquired. So if management growing business and they have adopted a strategy of acquisition growth rather than organic growth, so this is what strategic risk. Because their approach of growth is not good. If in emergency, you need to grow immediately, or there is only one competitor, and there is opportunity you can buy and eliminate the competition, then it's fine. If there is no emergency, don't move towards acquisition growth strategy. Always prefer organic growth. Because organic growth, you have to build everything. You know what's the system, how it will work. You are managing everything as per your previous history approach. So what is strategic risk? A company aiming to achieve growth by acquisition have more risk compared to the company growing through slow and gradual increase in sale. Slow and gradual mean expanding your business operation by yourself. What is strategic risk? Developing a new product is more risky than to enhance the existing ones. If in your existing product, customer do not do not preferring the existing product, and you are moving towards launching a new product, that will also become fail. Try to keep customer happy in your existing product first. If they are happy with your existing product, then whatever you will launch new, they will prefer. If they are not satisfied with your existing product, ultimately they will not taste your new product as well. So instead of improving your existing product, keeping customer happy with your existing product, you are trying to introduce new product. So this is wrong strategy. Strategic risk. Their approach is wrong. So first, try to keep happy customer in your existing product. If they are buying your existing product, they are satisfied with your existing product, whatever new you will offer, they will buy. Yep. They satisfied their customer with their existing product, first one, mobile phone. Now, whatever they are introducing new, customer is buying. That is becoming successful. Whether it's MacBook, whether it's earbuds, whether it's pad, whatever they are introducing, customer are buying. Strategic risk should be identified by the senior management. Why? Because it arises at top level management. Nobody else in the organization can control or identify this risk. What is operation risk? This risk arises at operation level. What is happening at operation level? Compliance with law regulation, compliance with management policies. If at operation level, employee are not complying with the management policies, they are not working as per management strategy, they are not complying with law regulation, and business is facing problems. So this risk is operational risk. In a risk to the business due to poor implementation of strategy at the operation level by not complying with the policies. So this is called operation risk. In at operation, whatever the issues at operation level, this will be called operation risk. So these are risks arising from business operations. Potential loss in business through failed or inadequate internal processes, people and system, mean people are not following policies, they are not working as per rules. And due to that, business is facing losses. Risk of a fraud by employees. Employees are involved in fraudulent activities. They are stealing company asset. They are misusing company asset, business suffering losses where at operation. Poor quality of production, lack of production, stock out. Mean they are producing poor quality products. And due to that, business is facing returns from the customer, losses. Or they are not producing as per the demand, mean there is shortage of product, customers are moving towards competitor. Where this is happening at operational level. Risk to the business due to poor implementation of strategy by not following all the policies, procedures of the business. Can you understand this? To explain risk more, let's take an example. Suppose you have started a new mobile phone business, mobile phone company. So you will be facing some risk. What risk you will face? What could be the risk that you need to identify?
Yeah.
Because risk management, we need to identify on proactive basis and defining control policies to manage the risk. So if we are going to start a new mobile phone company, mobile phone business, what risk we will face in future? So we'll face market risk. Market saturation. Market saturation means there will be no demand for your type of mobile in the market. Might be you have a manufactured mobile on previous technology, and the time you launch the business, mobile technology has changed or improved. Mean you are producing this single screen mobile. Nowadays, flip mobiles are coming with dual screen, and people are preferring those more. Market saturation. Could be a new product not being accepted in the market. Customer don't like the shape of the mobile, color of the mobile, or features of the mobile, quality of the mobile. Or might be quality is low, but you are charging high price. Competitors offering better product. Sales demand for a product may fall due to change in technology or taste. Increase in price of raw material ultimately push you to increase price of your product, and if you increase price, there will be less demand. Change in economic condition of the country. There is a recession. People are having low purchasing power. If they're having low purchasing power, they don't prefer to buy new mobiles. They are surviving on their old mobiles because economy is in recession. Change in international market conditions that also affect market condition of your country, because now business in one country are linked with international market. You could face credit risk. Credit risk means if you are selling goods on credit basis, you will not be able to receive money from the receivables, bad debts, chances of bad debts. Organization credit policy, those are not suitable for the customer. You are not checking a credit rating of the customer before selling them on credit basis. So this will result into bad debts. Credit risk means you will not be able to receive money from credit customers. The chances of bad debts is called credit risk. Liquidity risk, poor cash flow management means you don't have enough cash balances. You are unable to pay to supplier on time. You are unable to receive money from the customer receivables on time. Due to that, you are facing problem managing cash flow. Difficulty in raising new finance. You need money to launch something new or for the marketing purpose, but you don't have money and you fail to obtain money from bank or investors. High gearing. High gearing mean more debt, less equity. In that case, nobody provide you money, mean investment. Company may not meet its commitment, mean you have already paid the loan and you are unable to pay installment on time. And fluctuation in interest rate keep on changing and you are unable to pay liquidity. Or there could be technology risk, technological risk, product change quickly due to change in technology. And you have already stocked based on previous technology. To produce more on new technology, you don't have money because your stock pile up. Low investment in research and development. Mean you are not investing money in research and development, mean you are not innovative, you are not able to introduce new products in the market. While your other competitors are more innovative. They are introducing new products through research and development. And competitors have a better product. Mean their products are having better feature than it. They are providing something unique. That's why they are market leaders. Why you are not market leader? Because you don't have research and development. You are a copycat. You're copying other.
Like Samsung.
Samsung and Apple, they are leader.
Competitors.
All other companies are copycat.
Yes.
Whatever they have introduced, they just try to fit those features into their mobile. Even some companies are having a much better feature than their mobile. Like if Samsung has introduced a battery that can run for 3 days, might be their mobile run for 7 days. But still people are not buying them because of the brand image as well. There could be legal or litigation risk, breach of legal statute by the company mean you will not comply law regulation. If you don't comply law regulation, what is the risk? Fines, penalties, bad repute, banning business operation. Risk. Breach of a contract by company third party. If you breach the contract, you need to pay the penalty, contractual obligation. Legal risk. Contract with the supplier, contract with your landlord, contract with your customer as well. If you are taking sale order from the customer, I will deliver you these number of items on that date. This is a contract. If you don't deliver on that date, you are breaching the contract. They can file a case against you for claiming damages because your non-delivery, they suffered loss. Could be health and safety, environmental risk, safety of our workers. Mean chance of injury at the workplace for employees. If they injure, you need to compensate them. Safety of the community, pollution, toxic waste, mean you are polluting the environment, affecting the health of local community. ultimately you will face some fines from the environmental body as well as affecting your repute. Repute mean you are losing customer as well as investor, support from the community. And R&D, like especially pharmaceutical company, in their research and development department, what they do, they test their new drugs, new medicine on animals, and they are violating animal rights. Environmental risk, reputation risk. There could be product reputation risk, mean your product quality is poor. That's why people will not prefer to buy your products. Product recalls due to quality. Samsung recalled Note 8. There was battery issue. After that, people not preferring to buy their Note mobile phones. People switch to others. And business is in a sector perceived to be bad. You are operating in bad sector, like you are operating tobacco business. You are operating in alcohol business in an Islamic country. Reputational risk. Business property mean business decency risk, mean you are not operating a decent business. Directors getting increase while company is in loss. Director salaries are increasing every year while company incurring losses every year. This means you are selfish. This is not decency by the director. Questionable transaction, bribes, kickbacks, you are involved in bribes. You are not performing decent. Active lobbying, for example, arm and ammunition or tobacco, you are operating in business of guns or tobacco because these are demerit goods for the society. These are not beneficial for the society. Whatever you are producing, either cigarettes or you are producing guns. These are demerit goods. Or there could be currency risk transaction in foreign currency, like you are involved in import, export, and foreign exchange rate keep on changing. You will be facing losses. Change in currency rate, compactor price is getting attractive due to change in rate. If your country becoming deteriorate, foreign country currency becoming appreciative, so foreign compactor goods will becoming expensive here. This will provide you benefit. But if your currency appreciate, foreign country currency deteriorate, their product will becoming cheaper here. So people will prefer their product rather than your product. Foreign exchange rate also affect your product rate. Or there could be derivative risk. If you are dealing in derivative or hedging and interest rate keep on changing. So these are the type of risk, examples of risk that a business might face. Why we have covered? Just to get an idea what could be the type of risk business can face. There's another term called generic risk and sector specific risk. Generic word means general. A risk that will affect all type of business is called generic risk.
What is that?
That affect all type of business, not a specific, all type of business. That is called generic risk, like economic recession. Economic risk. If economy going to recession, it will affect all type of businesses. Increase in interest rate, increase in inflation will affect all type of business. What is the sector specific? A risk that will affect a particular industry business, not all type of business. Government have introduced new law regulation for the product of a particular industry. Government have introduced new tax on cosmetics. Government have increased tax on cosmetics. So this is a bigger risk, but will affect only the business operating in cosmetic industry, not other industry businesses. It will not affect a bank. It will not affect the technology businesses. It will affect only on the cosmetic industry business. So this is called sector specific risk. In a risk that will affect the businesses operating in a particular industry only. But generic, a risk that will affect all type of businesses. Business risks are bad. They affect the business. They affect the objective meeting of the business. What is business is a risk to the business that business will not be able to achieve its objective. A business risk affect the business first, then this risk affect everybody who is attached to the business. Mean business risk also affect business stakeholders. But stakeholder can save themselves by having some distance from the business. Business risk will affect shareholder. How? They will not be able to receive dividend. Their share price will drop down. They will lose their investment value, but they can save themselves if they withdraw their money from the business. Business risk affect company management director as well because they will not be able to receive a bonus. Their reputation will be affected. They might not be accepted in the market. Business risks also affect employees of the company. How? They might lose job. They might not be getting pay rise for this year, or there is no extra payment like bonus for this year. It also affects supplier. Company will not be able to pay them on regular basis. It also affects a customer. They will not be receiving goods on time of high quality, or might not be buying the goods on credit terms than before, or might be company will increase prices for survival. It also affect the government because if business is incurring losses, government will not be able to receive tax from the business. Business is not helping the government in providing employment opportunities. It also affects the local community as well. There will be no employment opportunities for the local community. There could be unemployment redundancy in the local community. So business is not only affect business, it also affect its stakeholder. How stakeholder are affected, we can read this. But stakeholder can save themselves by having a distance from the business. Let's take a break. After break, we will discuss a good question. 50 marks case study complete. So before moving towards next question, let's discuss a small topic so that we can complete the question. Risk perception. Risk perception mean assessment of risk. Assessment of risk mean assessing the probability and impact of risk. Before managing, we need to assess the probability and impact of risk, whether it will be high or low. Risk perception is of two types: objective risk assessment and subjective risk assessment. What is objective approach and subjective approach? Objectivity, subjectivity. Have you heard these words? Objectivity, subjectivity. What does that mean? Objectivity, objective approach mean very precise, very precise or very accurate. That can be proved. Subjectivity or subjective approach mean less precise or accurate, mean guess or hypothetical based. There are some risks whose impact and probability we can assess very precisely, very accurately. In what will be the impact, what will be the probability, we can assess very accurately. So this is called objective risk assessment. If we are able to assess probability and impact of risk very precisely, very accurately, this will be called objective risk assessment. Example, electric failure, will affect some house. How many? To whom electric connection is provided to. So we can count these house will be affected. Company collapse, will affect shareholder value. How much? We can calculate. Whatever is their investment, they will lose. We can precisely calculate what will be the loss. We can calculate how many house will suffer the loss. This is called objective risk assessment. There are some risks whose probability and impact cannot be assessed accurately, precisely. We can just make a guess. This could be the impact, or this could be the probability. If we are unable to assess probability and impact of any kind of risk very precisely, very accurately in quantitative terms, so this is called subjective risk assessment. And the example of subjective risk assessment is health and safety risk. What is health and safety risk? A risk relating to threat of loss, relating to threat of injury or death of employee. at workplace is called health and safety risk. Can we assess probability and impact? No, it's depending upon the employee. How much he will injure, we cannot assess. Might be he slipped and broken his leg, broken his arm, or both things. So we cannot assess probability impact very precisely, very accurately. This is called subjective risk assessment. So if we are able to assess probability impact of risk precisely, accurately, in quantitative terms, this is called objective risk assessment. Like due to electrical failure, how many house will suffer? So we can count to how many house electricity is provided, they will suffer. In case of collapse of the company, what a shareholder will lose, we can calculate whatever is their investment they will lose. But subjective assessment, probability impact cannot be assessed precisely, accurately. We can make a guess. We can make a guess. If suppose company website will stop working for 1 week, how much loss company will suffer? How many millions? We can make a guess. In how much sale company will lose, we can make a guess. We cannot precisely, accurately calculate the value. This is called subjective risk. There is a risk, but we cannot precisely calculate the loss. So this is called subjective risk assessment. Let's discuss another topic called alarm principle. ALARP, alarm principle. Alarm stands for as low as reasonably practicable. As low as reasonably practicable. What does that mean? There are some risks that we cannot avoid. There are some risks that we cannot avoid. Even we cannot reduce 100%. What we do, we define some policies, we define some rules so that as much as we can reduce, we should do that. So some risks cannot be avoided, even cannot be reduced 100%. So we try to as low as reasonably practicable to reduce them by defining some control policies. And which risk cannot be avoided or cannot be 100% reduced? Health and safety risk. We can define some policies for the employees. If they follow, there'll be no chance of injury. But it's on employee if they follow. And rules sometimes employee do not follow. So we cannot 100% reduce it or avoid it, but as low as reasonably practicable principle, we can reduce as much as we can by defining some alarm. Means some risk cannot be avoided. Avoided means we don't need to perform the activity. We are stopping the activity. No, we cannot avoid. Even we cannot reduce 100%. But using alarm principle, we can control as much as we can by defining some policies. I mean, they will arise, cannot be controlled 100%. But using alarm principle, we can reduce as much as we can, as much as reasonably practical, we can reduce them. As low as reasonably practical, we can reduce them. So let's move towards question. 50 marks case study. Now we are moving towards bigger task. What you need to do from now onward, Before coming to next class, you need to attempt the questions that we have covered in this class and try to cover one previous lecture in a week. Not only covering the lecture, you need to attempt those questions as well. Now onward, current lecture as well as one previous. Coastal oil. It's a big scenario. There are different requirements, 50 marks case study. Requirement of the question for 10 good marks. Describe the general purpose of corporate codes of ethics. Purpose of corporate codes of ethics. If company have defined their codes of ethics, what could be the purpose behind it? Why company define their codes of ethics? To control behavior of the employees. What else? To implement their strategic objective into their operations. What else? To create a good repute about the company against its stakeholder. How to implement shareholder values or beliefs into the company, like company is behaving ethically. Mainly to control behavior of the employees, implement their values into business operations, and to create a good repute. Or to attract the customers and investors, because those companies who are behaving ethically, customer investor prefer them more than those companies who do not behave ethically. And evaluate Coastal Oil's performance against its own stated ethical aims as set out in its code of ethics. In this company have defined their codes of ethics. What are those? Could be available in the scenario. We need to evaluate whether company is complying with those codes or not. So first we need to find what codes of ethics they have defined, and then we will explain each code whether company is complying or not. 10 marks. So let's read the scenario. Coastal Oil is one of the world's largest petrochemical companies. It is based in D-Land and is responsible alone for 10% of D-Land's total stock market value. Biggest company, largest company. It employs 120,000 people in many countries and has an especially strong presence in Afland because of Afland's very large consumption of oil and gas products and its large oil reserves. It is based from D-Land, but they are having strong presence in Afland. Petrochemical companies. Coastal Oil is organized like most petrochemical companies into three vertical integrated businesses. The exploration and extraction division, mean they extract oil from the rigs. The processing and refining division, after extraction, they process and refine those oil. And distributing and retailing division, and then they distribute and retail means sell. So the business is divided into three divisions: exploration, refining, and retailing. Because of the risk and the capital investment demand, Coastal Oil has a joint venture agreement in place for many of its extraction operations, i.e. its oil and gas rigs, from where they extract oil. So they are having joint venture. They are performing joint venture in extraction division because huge investment is required, especially those in deep water seas. A joint venture is a shared equity arrangement for a particular project. Mean they invest money together where control is shared between the joint venture partners. In each of its joint ventures, Coastal Oil is the largest partner. Their investment is more as compared to joint venture, more than 50% to retain their influence. Although operations on each rig and are divided between JV member companies and the benefits are distributed according to the share of the JV. So as a highly visible company, having 120,000 employees operating in so many countries, as a highly visible company, Coastal Oil has long prided on its safety records and its ethical reputation. It believes both to be essential in supporting shareholder value. This is another purpose of corporate codes of ethics. Through this, company can support shareholder value. This corporate codes of ethics published some years ago pledged its commitment to the highest standard of ethical performance in the following areas: full compliance with regulations in all jurisdictions. So compliance with regulation is one of their code of ethics. It's right thing to do to comply with regulations. Safety and care of employee. Second code of ethics. Transparency and communication with the stakeholder. Openness, no secret. Providing mandatory as well as voluntary disclosures. Social contributions performing social responsibilities, caring about society, and environmental responsibilities as well as caring for the environment. So these are their 5 codes of ethics: compliance with regulation, safety and care for employees, transparency and communication, social responsibility, environmental responsibilities, and we need to evaluate whether company is performing these or not in part A. In addition, Coastal Oil has usually provided a lot of voluntary disclosure in its annual report and on its website. Transparency communication. It says that it has a wide range of stakeholder and so need to provide a great deal of information. That's why they are transparent, open. One of the consequences of dividing up the different responsibilities and operation on an oil or gas rig is that Coastal Oil does not have direct influence over some important operational control. Though they are operating with joint venture, but they are not having direct influence over controls. The contractual arrangement on any given oil rig can be very complex, and there have often been disagreement between JV partner on some individual legal agreement and responsibilities for health and safety controls. Who is responsible for controls? There is contractual ambiguity. These things are not clearly defined in the contract with JV. Given that Coastal Oil has JV interest in hundreds of deep water oil and gas rigs all over the world, some observers have said that this could be a problem should an accident ever occur. Who is responsible for controls? There is ambiguity. So if any accident occurred due to non-compliance with the controls, there could be a big problem. This issue was critically highlighted when one of its deep water rigs, the Afland Coastal Deep Rig, had an explosion earlier this year. It was caused by the failure of a valve at the wellhead on the seafloor. The valve was the responsibility of Well Services, a minor partner in the JV. And they failed to connect the valve on the pipeline in a rig, and it happened a explosion. 8 workers were killed on the rig from the high pressure released after the valve failure. Due to explosion, 8 workers killed. And oil gushed into the sea from the wellhead. Leakage of oil into the sea, a situation that should have been prevented had the valve been fully operational. Who was responsible for that? JV partner. It was soon established that well service staff failed to inspect the valve, failed to inspect the valve before placing it at the wellhead at the time of installation. They didn't check whether the valve is tightened properly or not. As was required by the company's normal control system. Due to control weakness, this explosion happened, as well as 8 workers killed. In addition, the valve was attached to the connecting part that didn't meet the required technical specification for the water depth at which it was operating. The seabed was 1,000 meters deep, and the connecting part was intended for use to a depth of up to 300 meters. The valve was not as per technical specification of 1,000 meters deep. Might be for 300 deep. You can use a valve of plastic, but for 1,000 meters deep, you need to use the valve of any of the metal, strong metal. So that was not according to the specification. There was a suggestion that the need to keep cost down was a key reason for the use of the connecting part with the inferior specification. And to buy the proper specification valve, they need to bear a cost, but they were focusing on cost cutting, not quality. We are finding the reason behind this. Valve was not inspected. Second, technical specification. Third, what's the third? They were focusing on cost rather than quality. Reports in the media on the following day said that accident had happened on a rig belonging to Coastal Oil. Because they are the biggest company. They are having strong presence. Nobody knows about joint venture. When in fact, Coastal Oil was technically only a major partner in the joint venture. Furthermore, there was no mention that the accident had been caused by a part belonging to Well Services. Everybody blaming Coastal Oil, Coastal Oil. They finding a reason, they are blaming Coastal Oil. A journalist did discover, however, mentioned that accident had been caused by a part, journalists did discover, however, that both companies had operated a more lax safety culture on the deep water rigs. That was the case at facilities on land, the land site. He said there was a culture of out of sight, out of mind on some offshore facilities, and that this means that several other controls were inoperative in addition to the ones that led to the accident. They are not focusing on control, they are working out of sight, out of mind. And if they are operating in other areas, the similar operations, controls are not working there as well. Information system reporting back to the land side were in place, but it was the responsibility of a management on each individual rig to enforce all internal controls, and the land side would only be informed of a problem if it was judged to be exceptional risk by the rig manager. Mean information system is there, but they are reporting only exceptional risk. Exceptional mean non-routine risk. They are not reporting routine problems. Mean information system is not working effectively. They are not providing quality information on time. The accident triggered a large internal argument between Coastal Oil and Well Service about liability, and this meant that there was no public statement from Coastal Oil for 7 days while the arguments continued. And there's no public statement. Who is responsible? What happened? Why it's happened? They are not informing anybody. They are struggling with each other. Lawyers on both sides pointed out that liability was contractually ambiguous because the documentation on responsibility was far too complex and unclear. Contractual ambiguity. Who is responsible for controls? It is not written in the contract. So who can claim whom? It's not that much. And in any case, nobody expected anything to go wrong. In the absence of any official statement from Coastal Oil for those 7 days, the media had no doubts who was to blame. Coastal Oil was strongly criticized in Afland, with the criticism growing stronger as oil from the ruptured valve was shown spilling directly into the sea off the Afland coast. In that oil is still leaking into the sea, polluting the water. Not only water, living things that are dependent on that water. With no contingency plan, mean they don't have contingency plan. Mean they didn't identify these kind of risk before. No defined policy. If this kind of accident happened, what we need to do, how we can recover. There is no contingency plan. Because if they are having contingency plan, they might stop the leakage of water into the sea. But there is no contingency plan for a deep water well had rupture in place, and ruptured valve took several months to repair, meaning that many thousands of tons of crude oil polluted the sea of Flint. Images of seabirds covered in crude oil were frequently broadcast on television, and thousands of businesses on the coast reported that the polluted water could disrupt the business over the vital tourist season. And due to polluted water in the sea, tourists are not coming on that area, and the business outside that sea are also losing their seats. Quick statement from Coastal Oil that it was not responsible for the ruptured valve was seemingly not believed by the Afland public. A senior legislator in Afland said that the accident happened on a rig belonging to Coastal Oil, so it must be Coastal Oil's fault. Nobody knows about other joint venture. A review by the Coastal Oil Board highlighted several areas where risk management system might be tightened to reduce the possibility of a similar accident happening again. So now management of Coastal Oil, they are trying to define risk management strategy of the company. We need to assess risk. Finance Director Tanya Chand suggested that the company should disclose this new information to shareholders. Like now we are moving towards assessing risk properly. So to avoid this kind of issues in future, so we need to disclose this information to shareholder as a voluntary disclosure. We report on risk management system as it would be value relevant to them. In particular, she said that a far more detailed voluntary statement on environmental risk would be material to the shareholder. The annual report would, she believed, be a suitable vehicle for this disclosure. Because of the high media profile of the event, politicians from Afland involved themselves in the situation. Senator John's constituency on the coast nearest the rig was badly affected by the oil spills, and many of his constituents suffered economic loss as a result because they lost their business revenue. He angrily reported in a newspaper interview that Coastal Oil CEO Susan Ahmed should have known this was going to happen. Such was the poor state of some of the internal controls on the Afland coastal deep rig. I mean, CEO is responsible for this. He should have known about this kind of risk. As the oil spill continued and the media interest in the event intensified, CEO Mrs. Ahmed was summoned, ordered by the court to appear before a special committee of the Afland National Legislature to explain herself to the citizen of Afland. The Coastal Oil Board agreed that this would be a good opportunity for CEO to address a number of issues in detail and attempt to repair some of the company's damaged reputation. Because this is a chance we can explain we were not responsible, who was responsible, what happened, why this happened. So we can explain, and this can repair some of the repute. The board agreed that Mrs. Ahmed should provide as full a statement as possible on the internal control failure to the special committee. Mean we should explain what were the reasons mean failure behind this incident. Requirement. What we need to do? Describe the general purpose of corporate codes of ethics. We have defined straightforward and evaluate Coastal Oil's performance against its own stated ethical aims as set out in its codes of ethics. Now we need to put those 5 headings. The company corporate codes of ethics says number 1, full compliance with regulation in all jurisdiction. But company failed to comply with law regulations because this incident happened due to lack of controls. So company performed badly on this compliance with regulation. Second, we'll put the heading safety and care for employees. 8 workers killed due to explosion. So they failed to implement health and safety policies, and they claim safety and care of employees was not met successfully. Number 3, transparency and communication with the stakeholder. They haven't explained to the media, to the society, what happened, why this happened, means they are unable to provide any explanation. So they are not meeting transparency and communication with all the stakeholders. There was no statement from company management in the media. Number 4, social contribution. They failed to perform social responsibilities because the businesses near to that coast, they suffered their revenue in the peak tourist season. So they affected local community. Environmental responsibilities, they failed to perform environmental responsibilities because they were having no contingency plan. Oil leakage into the sea water, they didn't repair that. They didn't stop that. For several months, it polluted the water, not only the waters, the animals, birds who are dependent upon that water. So they fail to perform environmental responsibilities. 10 marks, easy. What we are doing by practicing these questions, we are adopting an approach how to tackle different requirements while sitting in the exam. Linking to the SNAP, linking to the SNAP. Practice. We need to adopt approach how to tackle different requirements. That's why we are covering case studies, questions, practice questions. Part B of the question. After attempting part A, now we can attempt all the parts because we know the story. Part B. Explain using examples the difference between voluntary and mandatory disclosures. We have covered this in chapter 4 or 5. Mandatory disclosures. There are certain disclosures that are mandatory, need to be disclosed in annual reports. What are those? The accounts mean financial statement, chairman CEO statements, business review mean committee's statement, corporate governance statement, AOB, any other business. Voluntary disclosures, these are disclosures that a company have chosen to disclose by themselves. They are not required. To meet transparency, openness, company have chosen to disclose voluntarily by themselves. It could be a report on internal control system, social and environmental responsibility report, or AGM meeting minutes. These could be voluntary disclosures. So part B, explain using example the difference between voluntary and mandatory disclosures. This is straightforward. And assess Tanya Tun's proposition that additional voluntary disclosure on environmental risk management would be material to the shareholder. As she suggested, we should provide a voluntary disclosure in annual report regarding risk management. We need to explain in his favor that this will be material to the shareholder. So by providing voluntary disclosure mean report on risk management will help the shareholder in understanding how business is managing, controlling business risk, mean protecting investment of the shareholder, just to provide them a confidence like their investment is protected in the business. And this will help to retain the shareholder investor with the business in this tough time. And this can provide survival to the company. Due to this incident, company have affected their repute. Might be company have lost some of the customer. This means company is facing some financial difficulties. And in difficult time, company needs some support from investor only. They cannot get support from any other stakeholder than their investor. So by providing voluntary disclosure, report on risk management system, company can provide a confidence to the shareholder, like their investment is more secure because company have involved themselves into a formal risk management system. So if company need more money either through right issue or by issuing new shares to the existing shareholder, so company can avail that. Because without providing this information, providing confidence to the shareholder, you'll not be able to get more money from shareholder. What else? As per company codes of ethics, transparency and communication with all stakeholder, so company can fulfill that code of ethics by providing a voluntary disclosure report on risk management system. So 3 points we can discuss relating to this voluntary disclosure. And for 4 marks, we can provide examples of mandatory disclosure and voluntary disclosure. 4 marks for straightforward part and 6 marks, we can write down 3 paragraphs. We are learning how to tackle different requirements of the scenario, how we can link different requirements with the scenario. We are adopting an approach. This paper is about adopting an approach. Before moving to part C, there's a paragraph small. In preparing to appear before the special committee of Afland national legislature, they have ordered to CEO. CEO need to present himself or herself to the national legislature. CEO Mrs. Ahmed has been informed that she will be asked to explain the causes of the accident and to establish whether she can give assurance that an accident of this type will not reoccur. She need to explain what were the causes, reasons behind the accident, and she need to provide an assurance this kind of incident will never reoccur. She need to explain what measures you are going to adopt, and you need to ensure by measure implementation through your system, these kind of incident will never reoccur. Okay. Prepare a statement for Mrs. Ahmed. Statement for Mrs. Ahmed means CEO is going to present or read a statement that we need to write down. And there is a proper format for writing a statement. If the statement is from the company, we need to use the word we. If this is from a person, we need to use the word I. You need to write the answer, but keeping in your mind, you are the CEO and you are going to read this statement. So we need to use the word I am. So prepare a statement for Mrs. Ahmed to present before the committee that explain the following. And there is a format of statement. First, there should be an introduction paragraph where she will say, I feel deep regret regarding this incident. Although we lost some employees as well as environmental damage, but I'm here to explain how this situation has arises. Then your requirement answer at the end. I'm ready to answer any question from the audience. And there are 2 marks for writing this first introductory line and the closing remarks. 2 marks for that. professional marks. There are 20 professional marks in your paper. And in this question, there are 4. So 2 marks will be relating to your tone, how you are answering requirement by using the word I in being a CEO of the. So prepare a statement for Mrs. Ahmed to present before the committee that explain the following requirement 1, 2, 3, 4. Requirement 1 for 10 good marks. The internal control failure that gave rise to the accident. I mean, you need to explain 5 reasons behind the accident. And we have highlighted those reasons. First, there was no inspection of the valve before placing it at the wellhead. If it had been inspected, they could avoid the explosion and the incident. Second, no proper technical specification of the valve. They were using the valve that is technically specific relating to 300-meter depth, but they installed that valve on 1,000-meter depth valve. So technical specification was not appropriate. If they had used that appropriate technical specific valve, they could avoid this incident. Third, the focus was on cost cutting rather than quality. They ignore the quality issues. They suffered huge incident due to cost cutting. Fourth, information system was not working properly because information system was just reporting exceptional risk. Mean in case of any major issue, there will be communication or reports. In case of any routine issue, there is no reporting, there is no communication. If the information system was affected, they could have placed some control measures to avoid these kind of incidents. And fifth, no contingency plan. They haven't performed risk assessment before. They haven't identified these kind of risk before, and they were having no policies. If this incident happen, what we can do to rectify it, how we can manage. So there was no contingency plan. That's why that oil polluted the water for several months. And media broadcasted the photos of birds, leakage of water on television that affected the reputation of the company even more. Part C1 for 10 months. Internal control failure means try to find out the reason from the scenario. Or if you unable to identify from the scenario, there are 5 components of internal control. Control environment. Try to find out whether there is a poor attitude of management regarding control, something like that. You can write down one reason internal control failure is contractual ambiguity. In contract, it was not clear who is responsible for operational control. If it was clear, might be those responsible could focus on those control and to avoid these kind of incident. But it was not clear. Might be they were thinking Coastal Oil is responsible. Coastal Oil is thinking Well Services is responsible. Role environment. Risk assessment contingency plan. Information system is mentioned in the scenario. Control activities, policies, procedures, inspection, supervision was not there. Monitoring was not there. Inspection. If you are unable to identify from the scenario the proper reason, then control weaknesses mean 5 components of internal control. Move to that. Whether this was working, this was working, this was working, this was working. Requirement C2 for 8 good marks. The difference between subjective and objective risk assessment using examples. Objective risk assessment is what? Assessing the probability and impact of risk very precisely, very accurately, especially in quantitative terms. For example, in case of electrical failure, how many houses will affect? If company collapse, how much shareholder will lose their value? So we can calculate these things very precisely, very accurately.
So we will get this 50%, 50 marks question unit.
No, there will be 100 marks question,
What am I saying?
but the requirement will be like similar. Case study will be a little bit more bigger than this. Could be double of this. Must be double of this. Change first. So subjective risk assessment we can define straightforward by providing example. So half part of this requirement is a straightforward. The difference between subjective and objective risk assessment using examples. Argue against Senator John's view that Mrs. Ahmed should have known this was going to happen. Should have known this was going to happen. So now we need to provide some 1-2 paragraph. Like Senator Jones, he's saying CEO should have known this is going to happen. We need to provide argument against this. So from CEO.
What against this?
Again, we need to write a proper tone. I, being a CEO, is responsible for internal control system and risk management system of the company. But the arguments of Senator Jones, like being a CEO, I should have known this is going to happen, are purely groundless or not acceptable. Because we can assess a risk. We can assess a risk, probability, and impact. But these kind of risks are subjective in nature. The risk of incident or natural disaster are subjective in nature. We cannot predict their impact and probability in advance very precisely, very accurately. Though we can implement some policies to reduce the risk, but we cannot predict their impact and probability very precisely because these are subjective in nature. So the Senator Jones arguments are purely ignorance or what you can say baseless. From a CEO, you need to write.
But in some extent, she know that it will be happen.
It could happen. They can define some policies, but they cannot measure its impact and probability very precisely because these are subjective in nature. And then part 3, for 4 marks, you need to define what is meant by health and safety risk, a risk to the business due to injury or death of employees at the workplace, and the factor that can increase the risk in an organization when there will be high health and safety risk due to lack of health and safety policy. Mean management haven't defined the policies that employee need to follow. Due to non-compliance with the health and safety policies, business have defined, but employees are not complying. Due to lack of monitoring of health and safety policy, whether employee are following health and safety policies or not, there is no monitoring. 2-3 reasons we can, and one definition. 4 marks. And part 4, why Coastal Oil cannot guarantee the prevention of further health and safety failure using the ALARP principle. So from the CEO. Because she has been asked to provide assurance that this accident will not reoccur in future. So being a CEO, I have been asked to provide assurance that this kind of incident will not reoccur in future. Is not reality based because we cannot provide guarantee like this incident will not reoccur in future due to the nature of our business operations. I mean, in our business operation, this kind of environmental incident risk could arise. We cannot eliminate these risks because we need to perform the operations. Even we cannot reduce these kind of risk 100%. Due to some natural disaster, it could happen. Due to storm in the sea, this kind of issues could happen. But using ALARP principle as low as reasonably practicable principle, we can define some internal control policies, procedures that if followed properly, we can reduce as much as we can, but we cannot provide guarantee that this kind of incident will not reoccur in future. Though we have tightened our risk assessment procedures more, we are moving towards defining more risk policies to control this, to reduce this as much as we can, because risk cannot be avoided, risk can be controlled only. But these kind of risk cannot be controlled even 100%. For 4 marks. 50 marks case study, answer is there. Please try to read answer of each requirement first and then attempt. I want to see this question and the other question YGT that we covered today, along with 2 previous questions. And please bring your laptop with you next class. From now onward, you need to bring your laptop with you so that I can see how you are attempting the question. If there is anything lacking, I will guide you so that you can improve before moving to exam paper. From a previous class, one of the students got 76 marks in this paper. 76.
Who got 76?
Abdul Azim. Who failed AAA? Who failed AAA, but he got 76 marks in this paper.
76.
Yeah, 76.
Nice.
And he prepared this paper in 3-month session. If he can get, you people are more capable than him. He was not regular in the class. But he covered all the lectures through recording. At least he was having knowledge about each topic. Might be he didn't practice all the question written, but he was having a knowledge about all the topics. Might be while studying, he focused on studying only. Might be while studying, he used to switch off his mobile or don't use mobile during study so that he can focus and understand properly. In next class, please come with your laptop. These 2 questions and 2 previous questions, please. See you in next class.